Hi guys, welcome back. So let's talk about money. I always go on about different unions, different countries having more resources than others, but not putting figures to it. So as we wait for these July tests, I thought I'd delve into the figures and bring them to you, not as a detailed financial report, but more out of interest, out of comparison. I hope you find it interesting. If you like this sort of stuff, feel free to subscribe. I certainly had a lot of fun looking into this, and I'm going to compare the teams that I look at mainly, which is England, Ireland, Scotland and Wales. Please bring me figures for others out of interest, that would be great, but those are the four I'm looking at. Now, before I go into the direct comparison between the four countries, let's have a look at England's figures for the RFU. All these figures coming from Statista.com, which comes from their actual annual financial reports anyway. So let's have a look at the numbers they get from different sorts of income. And I'm looking at income here. I'm not looking at expenditure and profit. I did look at those, but it gets very complicated because it depends what they're spending in the year, what they want to invest in, and that varies a lot. Whereas income is a bit more steady. But anyway, there is more to it. But let's look at income because it gives the idea of kind of the power, the financial might of that nation. So looking at broadcast. And wow, look at those figures. Nearly 50 million in 18-19 for broadcast, which is mainly TV deals, of course. And you can see how powerful TV is and why rugby is desperate to package up games into different competitions, into certain packages they can sell to TV companies, because this is the sort of money you can generate. And indeed, the income that the RFU gets from broadcast deals is comparable to other unions' total income, actually, which is pretty impressive. Moving on to sponsorship, and again, a massive whack, nearly 30 million from sponsors. And they've got loads of sponsors, all giving differing amounts. We know we've got Umbro O2, but there's plenty of others. British Airways, Guinness, Honda, IBM, the list goes on. All, again, will be contributing different stuff, but it's a big, long list, and it all adds up. This next one surprised me. Look at those figures for hospitality and catering. Absolutely massive, topping 50 million again in there in 18-19. That was a good year for them for sure. And look at the drop off the cliff when the pandemic hit. Absolutely devastating. You can see it in figures there. Again, you can see the drop off in figures of the pandemic for ticket sales, almost down to nil. Again, peaking in 18-19. 47.6 million, so huge number there in ticket sales. We'll come back to tickets in a bit. The hotel, a nice little earner there. If you can own your stadium and have a hotel that runs nicely, you can see it brings in steadily 6 million every year. Obviously, apart from the pandemic, that goes as well. Merchandising, licensing, that's a big one as well. The England kit costs about £100, the England playing shirt. That's a lot of money. I'm not sure what they're making it out of. Maybe golden yak hair sewn by Tibetan monks. I don't know what it is. Same with football. Vast markups there, but they're getting a lot of money from it, peaking around 7 million. And to get a few more million, they'll hire out their stadium as well. Hire out Twickenham in 2018. I think they had the Rolling Stones and Eminem bringing in a bit of money. So again, a few more million there. They did manage to claw a little bit back from the pandemic through insurance, but obviously clearly not enough to cover their losses. So that's quite an interesting breakdown of where income comes from, but let's have a look at the comparison. So here we go. Average annual income for those 3 years. England dwarfing everyone else with nearly 200 million in income, 198.2 million. Absolutely massive. Now, of course, they're having to cater for a larger population, if you like, to use some of that money to develop a larger nation. But they only have one national team, one national stadium. So clearly, all those income streams they've got going on there add up to that massive nearly 200 million for sure. And also, having looked at all the different nations, one of the big takeaways is England has a very diversified income stream, which means they're just that bit more resilient when certain parts drop out. That is absolutely certain. Ireland there converting into pounds from euros. That's not ideal because I'm converting at today's rate. Obviously, it would have been different throughout the years, but around 71 million, which is actually less than Wales. That's surprising. Let me know if I've made a mistake, but I've taken these stats straight off Statista, straight off the financial reports. So it looks like to me that Wales actually have a bigger income than Ireland. 87.47 million, a big income, and then a drop down to Scotland on 56.59 million. Now, Wales and Ireland is interesting. Obviously, they've both only got 4 professional teams, but Wales have got more income. Obviously, the finances of the domestic sides and the governing body are slightly separate, although in some cases they're slightly together. So it's a little bit confusing, but they're slightly comparable. But the way that Ireland's domestic teams are performing and their national team is performing so well, I think there have to be some questions about the running of the WRU, and indeed there have been many throughout the years, because their income is actually pretty chunky compared to Ireland's. Scotland, they've got less resources, as we can see. We always say that, but now we can see it. And Scotland as well got quite a low percentage of ticket sales, so their reliance on ticket sales is quite low, which is good because you have more diversity. And I've always commented how Scotland kind of box clever with their resources. Like, their international selection policy is very bold, it's very transparent. They go searching the globe for Scottish qualified players, try and maximise their resources. Right. And if I bring up the final graphic here, just representing that percentage income from ticket sales. Now, the biggest takeaway from here, of course, Wales with that huge whopping percentage of ticket sales reliance for their income. And of course, that's why they were hit so badly with the pandemic, because most of their income, half of their income, is coming from those ticket sales. And maybe I need to be a bit more understanding when I've been critical in the past of the WRU looking to cram in those home fixtures because they know their income comes from that. They can fill out that stadium, but maybe they need to diversify a little bit. Scotland, like I said, fairly well diversified, quite a low percentage of ticket sales. England, very low as well. It's a shame I couldn't find out Ireland's because they didn't calculate them separately. They didn't give the figures separately. If you know what Ireland's figure is, let me know. I think it's fairly high, but I'd love to know that. So just finishing off on the income slide again, what difference does this make? Let me know what you think of these figures. Who's making the most out of their money? Who needs to improve? Is this surprising to you? Love to know all your thoughts, and I'll catch you next time.